Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Councillor Martin Halliday, who's shown a lot of interest in the local response to COVID-19. He's got a newsletter out. He gives me lots of information, which is very much appreciated. Martin, good morning, welcome, and why have you got yourself involved in this local response to COVID-19?
Well, good morning, John. Well, thank you for the introduction. I've gotten involved with this pretty much as a response to a community emergency, as everyone else has been doing as well.
But you've got a little bit further than most. I mentioned that newsletter. You must put a bit of work into that, not only the production, but also, more importantly, finding out where the information is, because this is a complex structure we're talking about, isn't it?
It is. I've been working this full-time for about 3 weeks now. As you're aware, my portfolios are health and seniors. And I've been, putting some systems in place to get information flows working both ways within those groups.
Martin, for many people... no, I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt, but perhaps we can talk about the structure of how this is organised. Because for many people, a lot of us are listening to usually the Prime Minister or the Director General of Health, who, by the way, has been really impressive. But so we get that at the top level, but I've spent some time in the bureaucracy and I realise there must be many, many people and layers of organisation that are involved in this. Have you decoded what's going on?
I have.
Tell me more.
It's actually quite a simple process, but it's perhaps not one that a lot of people are aware of. A lot of people seem to be thinking that KCDC is the end-all be-end-all in our community around this, but we've actually gone past that as a process. So when the level 4 a state of emergency lockdown occurred, our EOC, which is our Emergency Operations Centre for Kapiti, had already been triggered. It had actually been triggered a couple of weeks before that. So the way the structure works is from a Wellington region perspective, with regards to our civil defence response, they have a regional leader. And we in Kapiti have our own district leader. Mm-hmm. Now, that district leader is a gentleman by the name of James Jefferson, who is one of our senior leadership team members from KCDC, who is tasked as our district lead for a civil defence, or a local civil defence response. And he's been in that position 3-4 weeks now, and has been coordinating a district-wide response with regards to how we as a district respond to COVID-19.
And a fair bit of work's going on there. No, what I was going to say is a lot of work has gone on there. I happen to know that because I know some of the people doing the work. But one of the frustrating things for me, and I don't know if it's for you as well, is that to all intents and purposes, it appears as if the KCDC have not done much, whereas in fact that is not the case.
Look, that is not the case. I guess at this stage, a lot of things that KCDC has been working on have been quite under the radar, and I guess they've been ensuring that we as a community can work on a day-to-day basis. And that is things like making sure our water runs, our toilet flush, all the really unsexy stuff that's really, really, really important with regards to ensuring that our community works on a day-to-day basis. And I know that council staff have made huge sacrifices in both time, family, and other things to ensure that that they don't get sick, because we've got specialists that work, I guess, within the systems, but if they get sick, it's going to be problematic for us to replace them.
Indeed, because...
and these are the sort of considerations that KCDC was having to make weeks ago.
Yes.
And then, of course, with the lockdown happening in a very short period of time, they also then had to go remote within 48 hours.
And do you think they were ready enough to do that, Martin? Do you think that KCDC were agile and responsive enough in that situation? Because it was very, very quick.
Was anyone?
Yes. Good question.
The thing has been, we've moved through level 1, 2 to 3 and 4, I think in a space of about a week. And that is a huge ask for anyone to respond to. And I guess that's why you perhaps haven't been hearing directly from KCDC because they have been immersed in that. Now, we could argue that perhaps their comms could have been maybe a little bit better, or how their community interface could have been a bit better, and I think you'll see that shaking down now and catching up with itself. But they've had a heck of a lot of things that they've had to put in place and get sorted, and I guess community's also been partnering with that process as well to ensure that we are trying to cover as many bases as we can in a very short period of time. But I think what you're finding at the moment, well, actually I don't think I know what we're finding at the moment, is that this is all starting to come together in a more cohesive community-wide approach, and all those different little things are starting to get pulled in by the district lead as a district-wide response and a district-wide approach to this.
Do you think
KCDC is a part of that equation?
Right, a part, but an important part. And I was wondering whether the coordination that I think just may be missing, because there are a number of efforts going on, often without knowledge of other efforts going on within the community, and that's not unusual, but I've got a feeling that we cannot waste our resources in this extraordinary time. Do you think that the KCDC could do more in terms of coordinating various ad hoc volunteer efforts? I
am seeing that they are doing that at the moment. I've seen a increase in that interaction over the last 3 or 4 days. With regards to that cohesiveness. The telephone number that the regional which was the regional line, if you look back at the KCDC website now, it's now very much highlighted. And that was feedback that the community gave.
Yes.
And I guess part of the process as well is we as councillors have been tasked to get basically create communication channels into our community so that we can feed that information through our EMs, which are the emergency managers we've been allocated, in a daily report, and we feed the issues that the community have got into that process, and it moves up the food chain, if you like, to be addressed.
So the councillors are still well employed, you're saying?
Oh, most definitely.
And so you are gathering information, also dispensing information. And, I think about Sophie Hanford and the social isolation support group, organisations such as that. Have you been involved in that as well, Martin?
Yes, I've been involved in an advisory role with those guys since it first started. And that was a community response. It is a youth initiative. And they've done an absolutely amazing and fantastic job. There have been some issues that occurred last week because they have the essential service status, but a directive came down from the regional leader that spontaneous volunteers needed to stop operations.
Wow.
There was a little bit of interpretation lost in translation, so we're just sorting the processes that allow them to get back to where they were before with regards to supporting and helping their community, but doing it in partnership with KCDC and the welfare team. We're just sorting out that process so that everyone's on the same page.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was thinking of, because I was worried about the health and safety of those volunteers, and also the fact that there were other groups doing similar kinds of operations. So that's the coordination I was talking about, and it's wonderful to see that it's now happening. So it does make it important for people who are doing work or attempting to do work, helping out in this particular problem that we have, that they make contact with the KCDC.
Yes. And look, self-isolation support Kapiti are still there in a support role. So if you have a problem in your interaction with KCDC, you're more than welcome to call self-isolation support Kapiti, and they will help you through that process.
Martin, you say that they got the word last week that they were to cease operations, and discussions have been going on since then. Are they operating right now, today?
They are, but not in a delivery capacity.
Oh, I see.
So they're not out in the community delivering, and that was a bit of the mistranslation, if you like, because the indication was just to stop doing the deliveries.
Okay.
Now, the self-isolation support group had all the correct accreditation from MB to do the deliveries, but what they are wanting to, or what MB is wanting now, is for these groups to partner with the welfare teams, so the welfare teams can check on processes. What I've been very impressed with about these young adults is that they've been actually finding out the correct processes of what they've been needing to do, and they've been implementing them. So they actually have their processes in place, and they're very effective. I've seen them, and they've got vests, they've got the gloves, they've got the sanitizers, and they're being very careful about how they go about their interactions with the community, or had been up until that point. But it's one of those processes that all happens so fast, and it all happens so quick.
That's right.
And now we're just sort of settling down into the next phase. I guess I sort of thought there was two phases. There was a first phase, which was we were all running, and we got to the level 4 lockdown stage, and the goalpost stopped moving.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually then knew what the rules are moving forward. And so that moved us into what I call phase 2, which is the I guess the settling in, the planning, and the implementation of that planning.
Right.
I think we're almost at the end of that stage, and I dare say that we'll tidy a lot of those systems off this week, and then we get into the week-to-week ongoing operation of all this.
Well, I'm highly encouraged by this because it's more or less what I had in my mind, that this is what we require, and it's wonderful to see that it does seem to be coming to pass, and we've got to be fair on everyone because it's only been a couple of weeks since we had the level 4 announcement. I mean, it's just amazing.
It's been a roller coaster, an absolute roller coaster.
Absolutely. Well, keep us up with the play, Martin. You're welcome anytime here on Beach FM. And
thanks, John.
It's great that someone is deciphering the layers of what is going on, because no doubt about it, there's heaps of work being done. Much of it is admirable. And I agree with you about that young group, the social isolation support group, many of them young people, just outstanding young citizens. I thoroughly admire them. And thank you very much for supporting them.
Hey, and look, John, just a big shout out to you guys. You know, I want to say a big thank you to Beach FM. You've been there for our community. I've been listening to you. I've been finding out some amazing information on the people that you've been interviewing. So I just want to thank you guys for being there for our community in this very difficult time as a support mechanism, because I assure you, it has been very, very well appreciated.
Well, thank you for that. We're all on the same side here, and we're all part of the same community, and we all want to get through this as intact as we possibly can. Martin, I thank you for joining us, and as I say, you're welcome anytime here on Beach FM. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Look forward to catching up.
Okay, mate. Thank you.
106.3 Beach FM.